Good evening. I'll now call the City Council meeting for Tuesday, April the 3rd to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Abady?
Here.
Altoff?
Here.
Carpenter?
Here.
Duncan?
Here.
Mattson?
Here.
McCusker?
Yeah.
And Mayor Robinson.
Here. All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first day of winter. At this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ken, second by Bill. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Moves us on to item 5 this evening, public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Comments must be pertinent to city business and adhere to data privacy rules. No employees' names may be used, and personal attacks will not be tolerated.
Hi.
Could you sign in, please?
Sure. My name's Babel Gorman. Not very happy, especially with you, Mr. Mayor,
That's fine.
nor with the way that City Hall has at times been less than accessible. The last couple weeks, I've been told by 2 gals here at City Hall who I could talk to, asked what I'm supposed to be doing with public information. Just seems a little odd to me that we don't get to speak freely. We just pledge of allegiance to the flag with liberty and justice for all. What's more discouraging is you have council members here that can't talk to certain staff, that some are gone now, thankfully. And the staff wouldn't respond to certain members. Seems, totally, it's just disgusting that it's gotten to that. Now you're gonna go hire a new public works director and a new city administrator. You got the administrator you wanted. Didn't turn out so good, did it? And somehow you got him in here kinda under a dark cloud, I should say. And I don't know just how it happened, and I really don't care. It's over with. So we're moving on. But what I'm here to ask you, Mayor, is why don't you stay out of it? Why don't you pack your bags early and get the hell out of here?
Why don't you just go back to Dakota County where you came from?
Well, I'm coming back to town, sir.
Okay, then.
But I think you've made a big enough mess of it.
Have a good night.
Oh, everybody. Jim.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Arlen Lamb. I'm from Farmington. My address is 25145 Chippendale Avenue West, 55024. I was or probably still am, a interim board member for the downtown farmers market. We were in hopes of having been on the agenda for your meeting 2 weeks ago. Unforeseen problems came up, so we didn't make it to that agenda. Since then, I've been talking with Diane and Dave Maroney, and he had some questions. There were some things that needed to be answered with the plan that we had provided for him. Pleasantly, I'm working with him, going to be working with him between now and the next meeting, and we are in hopes of being in the agenda at that time. Some of the questions would be asked were, let's see, the number of vendors. We already have 7 vendors that have committed to coming to the downtown market. Some of the vendors have asked that we give them 2 spaces instead of 1 to give them additional frontage and table space for the market. One of the other questions was, how is the board formed? And that, at this time, we haven't done a board because we didn't want to spin our wheels until we had the okay to go ahead with it. And there's I've got a list of about 9 questions here that need to be addressed, and I'm in hopes that Dave and I will get the answers that the city is looking for, and we're looking forward to having a good market downtown this year. Again, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help with this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you.
As frustrating as it is.
Yeah. Welcome to the city stuff.
Anybody else wishing to address the council under public input this evening? If not, we will move on to the consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be adopted or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. Item A is the just and correct claims for accounting period ending March the 28th, 2018. Item B are the meeting minutes for the March 20th, 2018 City Council meeting. Item C, hire Aaron Nerud for the Fire Department. Item D, second reading and adoption of Ordinance 359, amending Chapter 152 of the Cannon Falls City Code and the zoning ordinance concerning production winery facilities in the B1 Central Business District. Item E, approve on-sale wine, strong beer license, and Sunday liquor license for Artisan Plaza. Item F, approve on-sale liquor license and Sunday liquor license for Artisan Plaza. Item G, Resolution 2337, approving plans and specifications and ordering advertisement for bids for the 2018 street improvement projects for the East Side 2 public improvements. Item H, Resolution 2338, supporting local decision-making authority. Item I, approve Mediacom assignment of site lease agreement. And item J, approve Northland Securities financial agreement. Are there any items anybody wishes to move from the consent agenda?
G.
Item G will become item 7C.
Like,
I and J.
Okay, hold on. One at a time, guys.
go ahead.
Which one, Leroy?
H, I, and J.
Okay, H is going to be item 7D. Item E, 7E will become the Mediacom. And item J is Northland Securities Financial Agreement, which will be item 7F.
I'd like to bring down item E.
And item E will become item 7G. With the exception of E, G, H, I, and J from the consent agenda, Chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ken, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to council business this evening. Item A is introduction and first reading of Ordinance 360, amending Chapter 111 of the Cannon Falls City Code concerning alcohol license and regulation. Dave?
Thank you. The council's received a memorandum report from me kind of overviewing the requests we've received from David Olson, who is here this evening as well, for one additional liquor license to be issued for Artisan Plaza. It's a little bit confusing, but this is a combination of local city code that's at discussion here tonight, as well as state authorized rights to issue a combined off-sale liquor license, a very limited off-sale liquor license. So what's being asked of the council tonight, at Mr. Olson's request, is to consider amending the code, which would allow the issuance of a combined license, which would allow on-sale liquor to occur in a specific location at Artisan Plaza, along with a limited right to sell off-sale. And with regards to the off-sale, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing. The off-sale, if you look at the exhibit that I included with my memorandum that shows the floor plan of a part of Artisan Plaza, and the retail commercial area on that map, within that general area, highlighted with yellow border is what's been identified as a service counter. And under this combined license and statutory limitations, if this amendment is approved by the council to allow the combination license, Mr. Olson could make application to be able to sell on a limited basis off-sale from within the borders of that service counter. So to clarify that, if you've been out in that space at all or familiar with that or looking at the floor plan, you can see there's a lot of other floor area and coolers within that retail commercial area. If the ordinance is amended and if the license is issued to Mr. Olson, he would not be able to display liquor anywhere other than within the borders of that service counter. You wouldn't be able to see a display of liquor, beer or wine displayed on the floor plan or within those coolers. It has to be within the confined area of that service counter. The beer and wine also has to be inventoried below the counter. It's not displayed there. There can be signage there within that area that would say Cannon River wine for sale, off sale, but you can't have full bottles of wine displayed above counter or above hanging on shelves below the ceiling. It's got to be displayed, or it's got to be inventoried underneath those counters. So it really truly isn't an off-sale liquor establishment, but with the combination license, there would be some ability of Mr. Olson, if the ordinance is amended and if he makes the application for the license, to have the limited sale of beer and wine within that service counter. I have spoken several times to both of the owners of the existing off-sale establishments in Cannon Falls and kind of explained what the request is being made of the city, what happens if the city council goes ahead and approves this amendment, what does it really mean in terms of potential competition to their off-sale liquor establishments, and are there concerns going forward in the future if this license is issued that someone could come in and expand the sale of off-sale liquor at that point in time. So I've had conversations with both of them, and I think hopefully we've explained, or I've explained to them what the limitations are here, and I believe they're comfortable with that at this point. So again, the request for the amendment has been submitted to us from David Olson. He is here this evening. If you'd like to have him explain a little bit more the concept and what he's after with respect to this particular request, I'm sure he'd be happy to do that, and I'll certainly try to answer any questions that you have relative to the amendment itself.
All right. This time, the chair will take, Mr. Olson, would you like to come up and speak?
My name is David Olson. For some of you that have been out to see our complex, what our goal is with this project is to appeal to everybody, from little kids to grandparents to parents to anybody that's able to come to our town. And I would hate to miss an opportunity that a customer would not want to come back because they weren't able to taste a bottle of Cannon Winery or the Asplund Winery or something like that. And that's our intentions. Our intentions aren't to be a full liquor store. It's to be able to have a bottle of wine to go home with some of your cheese that you purchased and hopefully come back to our community and explore the wineries and some of these other areas. And that's the purpose for the off-sale license. We're limited to space. We thought we had a lot more space than we did, but as we started building our project, we ran out of space. And so we're confined to the requirements by the state on what we can do with our off-sale, but we're also confined on how much on-sale product we can have too. So, this gives us some opportunities to do that. And like I said, it would be sad if customers weren't appealed by all the things that we've tried to do out there, and that's what our goal is, try to attract people from Rochester, Minneapolis, Red Wing. As part of this project is to bring people into our community. So hopefully we will enhance everybody else's sales in town and not just ours by doing this project. Any questions?
I have one. Have you spoken with, like Rod and the others?
Yes, I haven't spoke to Pete.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Okay.
I got a question for you, Dave.
Sure.
You're gonna open a restaurant.
Yes,
Are you gonna open it, or are you gonna have somebody else open?
we are going to open that.
You are,
Yes.
okay.
Any other questions for Dave?
I guess I see, it's a little hard to put it in words. I think it's great what you're doing. I'm not, and basically, you're probably looking at beer too, the beer, the wine.
Some crap, maybe some of the local brewery stuff, maybe some from Northfield. Like I said, our goal is to try to bring people from the cities into the country so
Right.
they can enjoy this atmospheres that we have. And like I said, we're limited to space, so I mean, if we have a case of wine, that's probably our whole inventory up on the front end, or maybe a couple six-packs of, or whatever, those growlers or whatever, a couple of those, and that's about all we've got room for, So it's not a big moneymaker for us. It's not a profit center. It's to try to appeal to our customers, to give them every opportunity they can to enjoy the atmosphere.
I guess I'm a little backwards on this. I'd rather see you get everything going and then maybe get into something like that a little bit. I mean, or see what affects. I mean, the people that come, you can tell them, yes, this is from Cannon Falls, we're here, why don't you can go down, visit downtown or the off sale and see your beautiful town or something,
Sure.
I don't know, it just surprised me. I'm sorry, but I mean, that just, and it's probably just me. I haven't had time to really do my homework, I should say.
Well, initially, I didn't like the idea, but I can see where you're coming from. It's not a bad idea. Now you've got a specific ordinance just pertaining to you. I'm just kind of curious I see Rod and Joe are in the audience, what they'd say about it too, what their feelings are. But with the limited, what you've got in the space and all that, I'm not really opposed to it now, I guess. But.
And you mentioned waiting till later. My goal was to be open by Thanksgiving. As you see, I missed that. Then it was Christmas, and I missed that. When I opened my facility, and when the Real Deals people opened their facility, they wanted to open. And I said, would you rather have sand and construction going in your complex, or do you want it gorgeous and everything perfect when you open up? And I'm in the same way. I want it perfect.
Right.
I don't want a customer to say, well, I would have come back if you would have had a bottle of wine. I don't want to give people those opportunities. I want to make sure that they have every opportunity to come to Cannon Falls and do whatever they want to do in our complex.
So Joe, what's your feelings on it?
So if you guys want to come up?
I guess I was just kind of curious on
We need you to come up.
Come up, if you don't mind.
I guess I was just kind of curious about what is considered local, if it's within a certain amount of miles, or how that is, how you figure that out. And that's about the only thing that we had questions about,
But in general, you're not opposed.
With everything how it is and stuff, no. Just, I don't want something to happen where, a year down the road, there's a chance to getting a full off-sale license in there.
Right.
That would have to come back to council anyway at that point to be discussed.
Yeah,
Dave, could you touch upon Joe's question as to how far out you might go in what is local?
Well, everything that we've tried to do for food products, we're saying we want to try to get a lot of our food products within 200 miles of Cannon Falls. So it may be Vino in the Valley over on the Wisconsin side. There's a winery in Farmington. You got Asplin Winery in Kenyon, or over by Asplin. So, there's another one in Red Wing. So 60, 80 miles is, you know, probably enough of the wines that we can get locally here. We don't want to bring wines in from California. That's not our intent, you know. We want to support the local food peoples who we're really trying to attract.
I don't know, that to me sounds more regional than local, just the distance-wise. Was my concern, you know, local versus regional.
Sure.
I can maybe just add too, I've talked to Joe and David about this, that just understand the context of local. That's not a statutory limitation. It's not something that's proposed to be in this ordinance per se. It's something that relates to, I think, David's marketing plan for the development of a local food center, and in this case, local wine and beer being available for sale there. So there isn't a statutory or a local definition about what local is, but I think that's really the marketing emphasis that David's brought with Artisan Plaza. So if the council wants to establish a limit or a definition of that, that's certainly fine. But I just want you to understand that it's not a local code issue or a state issue that we have to adopt. But if you want to do it, you can certainly have a restriction like that.
Yeah, I was just trying to answer
Right.
Joe's
Right.
question, that
Right.
we have a rough idea.
Right.
So, David, did the EDA group have a good discussion about this, or is this mostly through you and David?
Yeah, we haven't brought this particular liquor issue at all to the EDA. The EDA is familiar, obviously, with Artisan Plaza and the
Right.
market vision that David's brought to us, but nothing with respect to liquor.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess,
Wine and beer?
Or beer. Yep.
the thing for me is, and I usually think quite different than the rest of them do up here, but I do have trouble with it being called kind of a family operation, and then liquor is supposed to be involved. I have trouble with that. I also have trouble is when we're going to do something, what does it lead to in the next situation? I mean, does Brewster's come to us next week now and they want to have cheese skirts from someplace in Wisconsin, and they want Wisconsin wine with it? We've got our 2 local off sales, and to me, I'm more interested in how we work together. And what I mean by that is, I would be very excited for you to have your on sale or whatever you do. The off sale really bothers me. I don't understand the situation if a family comes down and entertains for the day and then wants to take alcohol home with them. To me, I would rather see where your organization has a coupon for 10% off at Rod's or 10% off at the other off sale, and the bakery and the antique shop. I would rather see us do the dance together and not expand off sale in town. I realize times are changing and things like that, but if you would have told me that it was limited to our local stuff, I could possibly be a little bit interested. But I would hope that our local wineries and our new brewery all work with everybody locally here. It's just hard for me to wrap my mind around the fact that if people come and have an entertaining day, we aren't fulfilling them unless we give them some liquor to go home too. And I realize that's probably too realistic, but working on the police commission and stuff, I always think about the whole overall picture of this stuff. And I have a real problem with giving out another off-sale license, not because I'm a protectionist, but because it's fairly obvious it takes about 2,500 to 3,000 people to support one off-sale, and we've got 2 of them. And if we add another one, or we reckon one of the other ones, it's no different than we did out at the motel out there. I keep my fingers crossed, and I'm so hopeful that that's a good thing. But we also created a competition where is everybody going to make it through where things are at? So I just want you to know that I just appreciate your expense for what you've spent and your time invested. And what you're trying to do, I think, is wonderful for our committee. But I personally cannot support another off-sale place. Thank you.
Would you be willing to limit your off-sale to only products manufactured in Cannon Falls? If that would get Leroy on board,
That one's.
and maybe me?
That one's a little tough. And here's my intentions with some of the off-sales. Somebody comes in, they're going up to their cities, up to their relatives or whatever. They stop at our complex because it's halfway between Minneapolis and Rochester. They use the restroom, they get some cheese, they grab a bottle of wine, and they're on their way. Guess what? Hey, it came from locally down here. Hopefully that brings them back to the area again because, hey, that was a cool bottle. Now, it also brought their relatives back to here. And that's the intention of that. It's not for people to go get drunk and all that kind of stuff.
And I totally understand what you're saying.
And even with my off-sale license, when I had the chief of police there, I told him, my establishment is not to be a drunk fest. If they want to do that, they can go someplace else. Our intentions is to come up and have a nice glass of wine with your supper or your pizza or a beer with your pizza. And there's nothing wrong with that if you'd like to do that. If the kids want their ice cream and their milkshakes, they're able to do that also. And that's the intentions of both licenses.
But back to the question of, would you be willing to limit the off-sale only? I'm not talking about on-sale, like serve whatever you want, right? For, buy the glass for people who are eating. We're not trying to get into your menu choices.
Just
But for your off-sale, would you limit it to just Cannon Falls?
No. I think we need to get Ashblunt, I think we need to get Farmington, and maybe some of these other wineries, because that's going with the theme here, okay?
Do you
So
have,
by we, you mean you?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
right, okay.
do you have some tentative agreements in place with, whether it be the local winery or Tillian's or?
No, because I don't have a liquor license. They said, you got a liquor license? I
That's
said,
why I'm
no.
tentative, just
Right.
talks with
I've
them.
talked to some of them, but they said, do you have a license? I said, no, I don't have one. So, once we get a license, then we can have more talks.
But the on-sale, is that being issued or hasn't that been issued yet either?
One has, and the other one's been brought down. You've got two other items,
Right.
you've got two other items on the agenda tonight on the consent related to the licensing for Artisan Plaza. This is the only one that requires the amendment to the ordinance.
The off-sale.
Yeah.
Is that one, okay.
Yes.
I guess I guess I would say that I think it's a good thing what Dave is doing for the town, and I would be more than willing to work with him with coupons or something like that if it came down to that. You know, if he didn't get the off sale, I would be more than willing to figure something out, talk with Dave, and
When you said with things as they are, I don't have a problem with it, did you mean with things as they are in terms of the layout and the confined amount of space that he's going to have to establish an inventory to sell from? Is that what reassures you?
are you talking to me?
Yes, I am.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Okay. You said earlier, I'm okay with it as things are, or approximately
Is-
about that. Do you mean about because
the
there's such a
space,
small
the-
space and it
yes.
can't be displayed, so that kind of puts him not as a peer competitor with you? Is that,
Pretty much.
okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. And then do you feel similarly, sir?
Yeah, I think Dave's doing a heck of a job out there, taking the old grandpa's garage, which
I think we all think that,
I-
yes. This is about
down.
the off-sale only.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the language of this is what we're talking about, of the license.
Correct.
Has to be very specific. Very specific, because it opens up a can of worms to allow other places to start selling off-sale. Mill Street, Brewster's, they could start selling bottles and six-packs of beer out the back door.
Does
That-
that-
that's-
Yeah, let me,
That's our main
couple
concern.
couple conversations here. One is with regards to other potential licensees of this limited off-sale license that we're talking about if the city adopts it as it's proposed. One thing that's not being changed in the amendment is currently off-sale liquor establishments must have a minimum of 10 parking spaces. That's not being changed by this request of Mr. Olson. So, from a practical matter, pick your other bars and restaurants in town, and if they were going to come in for a similar license to this, if the ordinance is amended, they're going to have to provide a minimum of 10 off-street parking spaces. And I'm not sure that any or all of them can do that. So that's one restriction. The second thing that we've talked about, and I've had long conversations with Joe and with Peter on this, and it's kind of the question of the what-ifs relative to what if this is approved as an amendment and someone else does come in. Beyond the parking issue, we have talked about if the council wants to have further restrictions on the ordinance, you can do that. If you only want to issue one of these licenses, you can do that. You can say there will be one combination on-sale, off-sale license issued in Cannon Falls. You can do that if you like. If you wanted to limit it on a square footage basis, as an example, the area that David's asking for is about 560 square feet. If the council would say, okay, we want another restriction in this ordinance, we are going to allow this license, one license perhaps, but we're also going to restrict the square footage. So you can't have more than 600 square feet of area. You can do certain things that are going to further reduce the probability, capability, likelihood of others seeking a similar license if you choose to do that. That's certainly something you can do. The local issue, again, we want to be a little careful. I'd like to be a little careful about that. I'm not the attorney here, but depending on how that definition might come into play here, might be a little bit of something that we could have to check further on with the city attorney. But those are restrictions that you can do. And the final thing I want to just mention, too, that with regards to what about if David Olson next year, if he gets this license and says, I'm going to sell and I'm going to leave. As Robbie said earlier, this isn't a transferable, assignable license. So if it's amended, the ordinance is amended, and David License gets it, and a year from now he decides to sell Artisan Plaza and go to, where's your favorite southern place? We'll say Mexico. To Mexico, that the license itself is not assignable or transferable through sale, that if I bought Artisan Plaza next year and I wanted to go from a 560 square foot area limited off sale to 1,000 square feet, or I wanted to redevelop that whole commercial area into an off-sale liquor store, this license doesn't allow it. I've got to come back in for a license similar to what Joe and Peter have now. So I think there's certainly some obstacles, there's some hurdles, there's some limitations here in terms of the what if, even beyond David Olson, that kind of say, yeah, maybe, but. And again, this is his request, not mine, but I've been out there, I've looked at this space, I know all the things he's trying to market out of this service counter area, and I'm scratching my head going, now where's the wine bottles going to be put below? There just isn't that much space. But again, if the council chooses to issue the or make the amendment.
Kind of scary to see all those coolers in the back, like you're really going to get into it big time. Yeah, that's all cheese.
Yes, if you're interested in more restrictions on the ordinance, we can talk about those things too.
You know, David, you said something in there that just really concerns me too when we get into this stuff, is the legal end of it. And when you say that if he decides to sell a year from now, let's say this place is a hell of a success, he gets offered big money, and I just can't believe that they aren't going to be able to buy his license out there. And if they can't, it's okay. What I'm saying is we had basically the same thing with the winery. We had one person that owned that, one person had license, it got sold. Now we're into this can of legal worms again. And all I see is 5,000-10,000 for Roger and other outfit up there to get this all figured out. So it's a thing where I certainly don't have the answer, and I need to quit talking, but it gets to be such a legal issue, this stuff, and it just always gets more complicated, and all of a sudden it's another 5,000 here and there. Nobody offers to help us pay for this stuff as part of their license. We're supposed to do this as a entitlement. I just would like to keep things simple the way they are. Thank you.
I had brought up to Dave about the fee on the license, if it's going to be an off-sale license fee or an on-sale license fee. And say if it's an on-sale fee, you know, those are pretty high. You know, is that if it's not worth it to you to have it then, and you decide, screw it, I'm not going to do it, then on the amending of it, can you go back to how it was? You know,
Well, the one thing, since we got you here tonight, I wish Bodette was here too, is that I'm glad to get off the council because one of the problems I'd have is if we're gonna become the wine town down here and we're gonna become a liquor town and we're gonna give away the store to do this stuff, my first thing out of my mouth is we gotta go to a liquor tax. Somebody's gotta pay for all these road changes and all this stuff we gotta do. So, you guys, you know, I don't want you to get scared and fall down out there, but it's good Leroy's getting off here. He's probably having liquor.
You might want to sit down with me.
Thank you.
Let me comment on the fee, because that is an important consideration here too, just so the council understands the question about fee. If the ordinance is amended, it takes 2 readings. And if the first reading's tonight, the second reading would come back on the 17th of April. There needs to be a public hearing for the license fee. Probably if this process moves forward, the public hearing for the license fee would be May 1st. And at this point, we really haven't talked about what that number should be, but there does need to be a public hearing and there does need to be established fee for this license if it's going to become a part of the code. So to Joe's point, we've talked about that. The economics of the fee does have real ramifications, potentially to David Olson or anybody else, because again, you got to remember that this is a very limited off-sale license that would be issued here with the amendment. It's not a liquor store. You see what David Olson is asking to do, and I'm pretty confident that if the fee is way up here, Mr. Olson may say, this just doesn't make business or economic sense. So to Joe's question, which we've talked about before, if that happens, the ordinance gets amended, the fee gets too high, David Olson doesn't apply, nobody applies, can the city go back and change, go back to where we were? Yes. So again, there's the kind of that next step out there, which is the fee.
Okay, so which line item are we on right now? Out of the 3 different units, which one got pulled down and which one are we talking about
Okay,
right now?
right now, we're talking about item A, the off-sale. 7A.
Council business.
Oh, right, that was the one to pull down, sorry. We pulled down the on-sale ones.
The on-sale was pulled down to G.
Okay.
Well, getting back to the original question, Joe, are you comfortable with this limited off-sale?
For how limited
Yeah.
it's supposed to be, I am all right with that.
I see Dave's idea, and I think it's a good idea, but, you know, I want you.
I was pretty scared seeing all the cooler doors and
Yeah.
everything.
I was.
I mean, that's more than I think we got on there, and,
No, it's not Texas, they don't have drive-throughs.
yeah. You
So,
weren't thinking about that, were you?
I think
Okay,
there's a
you're
lot
saying-
of people that would really like to have the glass of beer and a glass of wine with their pizza out there.
Yeah.
And to, the amount of bottles, I don't know how many you're gonna sell. And I don't know if the Tillians can go off premise with their beer.
Not yet, but they will, I think they're working on that, yes.
You know, there's other ones that, you know,
Yes, yes.
do have bottles that has. I'm gonna sit down.
so you said that we could limit the retail space in the ordinance so that to the extent, say the cheese goes away and you're like, hey, I already have an off-sale license and I have coolers. I mean, you could, with this, the
No,
ordinance says
The
this,
state is
no.
not, no, the state law does
State
not
won't let you.
require us. You
Okay.
have to have a separate facility.
Okay,
A confined area in order to do this.
Okay.
That's what the state requirement.
Okay.
Correct, Dave?
It's a licensed premises, but it's even smaller than that under this limited off-sale license.
Okay.
To be that the licensed premises would be this defined
you can just say no.
service counter.
I was wrong, it's okay, okay. So, what, does anyone want to add the 600 square feet to this proposed
Somebody
ordinance?
want to add 600 square feet in one license.
Well, 600 square feet isn't a small amount of area.
You know, in the 600 square feet, I've simply looked at what he's got here, and it's about 560.
Right, I understand.
Right.
That's the relevance of the 600.
It would limit it so that we feel more confident that this is the only place that would meet that requirement.
Like Dave was saying earlier,
Yeah.
it's gonna limit it anyhow with the restrictions you've got with parking stalls and
Right.
everything else, not.
That could change. I mean, technically, another place. All right. I would make a motion
Okay,
to approve this proposed ordinance amending Chapter 111, but to include a limitation of no greater than 600 square feet.
How about if we make sure it's to David Olson too, and it can't be resale or resold?
It can't be resale or resold. That's already, it's already in.
It's already by law, it
Just
can't.
make sure that's in there.
Not without approval. They'd have to come and ask. Yeah.
okay, and do we want to limit it to just one license like that?
So like a combination license?
Just
Oh.
one, that there would only be
Oh.
one combination license like this in the city?
I don't like that, because then you have to rewrite it if you change your mind.
I'd say.
You want to limit it to just one? There
It's
shall
up
be
to you
only
guys.
one?
It's up to you guys.
I don't know, with 600, if you're limiting it to 600 square feet, you've already limited what kind of competition you're going to have in the first place. That it's going to make it a tough go for anybody
Right.
unless they're diversified in other areas.
Right.
And plus, they would have to come back to us regardless if a second wanted to do
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But also, though, the way he was saying before, they have to keep the stuff basically underneath. I mean, they can't really display either, so I mean, it's, you know, it'd be pretty hard for somebody to have an off-sale.
I think it really takes, from a business perspective, it takes a unique set of circumstances
Yeah.
to want to
Right.
have something like this,
right.
which is
Have
why there aren't
600
many
square
of them
feet
issued.
and 10 parking spaces. That's not that's not sustainable for most. So,
Okay, so.
that's my motion.
So I have a motion by Cedar to amend ordinance 360, chapter 111 of the Cannon Falls City Code concerning alcohol license and regulation, limiting the off-sale area to 600 square feet. Is there any other discussion? Not all those in favor?
We didn't get a second.
I'll second it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Just kidding.
Okay, second by Ken. All right, now I've got a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1. That moves us on to item 7B, tax forfeited land. Linnell?
Thank you. We received a letter from Goodhue County recently stating that they were doing some research on some tax forfeited parcels, and one came to their attention that was forfeited back in 1984, and it's considered non-conservation land. They are asking council action on this parcel of property. One would be to approve the parcel for public auction and say for possible sale. Another is that we could request a conveyance to the city for a public use, or we could request a conveyance to the city for a public purpose. And in talking to the county, public use would be that the city would obtain the land for free. We would pay some recording fees and a state fee on that. But there are limitations, well, not limitations, but restrictions perhaps. Well, that's not even the right word. The state will come and check on us to see what we do with that land, and we have to have a public use for that land. So a public purpose, normally it would be a fair market value. And in this case, they are saying that we could request that the county sell us that land for $1 because it has sat vacant for so long. We would pay the recording fees, and then there would be no time limit or follow-up by the state. So it would really just become our property. It is adjacent to some additional city property. It is located down along the Little Cannon River. I think there is a map in your materials that shows where this lot is located. So I'm just looking for direction from the city council on how you would like to proceed.
I'm trying to find this in the map. Is this up by you, Morris, up there?
It's actually over by me.
Yeah.
It's south of Park Street, bounded on the
Where the bridge is.
east by, or west by Highway 52. And on the,
It's,
along the Little Cannon River.
He's got it. He's got these things.
There's really nothing there.
He's got them.
I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot you can really do with it.
No,
No.
The idea would be if we
It does
wanted to use
flood.
it someday for recreational purposes,
Right.
because it's adjacent to city land and it's adjacent to the river.
Right.
You know, it would just allow us to do that in the future. There's very minimal cost involved, so.
It does even with the dam gone, it still does flood periodically.
Yeah, so you
Right.
wouldn't
It is flood.
put much on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to move that we request a conveyance to the city for public purpose, not public use. The cheap one with no
The other
oversight.
thing, Robbie, is I'd like to bring up to the council about this is, when I was on the council the first time, we talked about all this down there, and one of the things that was talked about that maybe some of the council members now don't know about, but at that time, we talked about moving, Farmers Market down to the overflow parking. And at that time, we were talking about leaving the big tree that was in the middle of the parking lot, and that got shot down, so the tree came down. We talked about a crossing between the two parking lots, nothing fancy. We talked about a trail that would go from our overflow parking lot across the prairie and underneath the bridge. And there was concerns about how much all that would cost, so we talked about just going with a limestone path. But we also were talking at that time, it'd be nice to have a trail from down the overflow parking lot out to Highway 52 along the river. And everybody was kind of in agreement on that at that time. The trail out there along the river was mainly for people that want to stop off the highway and take a break and walk down that trail. And the other one was for the Twin Rivers residents to have a place to just walk back there. So to me, if we can buy this land for $1, and it works into our plans someday to have picnic tables out on the end out there and there's more room, I think we should consider that because we can always turn around and just deed it back to the residents. And to me, we should move ahead and take over this if it's not going to cost the city a lot of money. And the reason is how that fits in, whether it's snowmobilers in the wintertime going along there, maybe we can come up with a better outlet going out that way instead of coming through our roads and Anna's Bend and stuff. So I would like the council to think about purchasing this and the park board maybe do some future thinking about this.
So is that a second? Is that a second? I have a pending motion
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
pick it up for, okay.
So I got a motion by Cedar, second by Leroy, to have staff request a conveyance to this city for public purpose.
What's that gonna cost? Is it
$1.
$1? or
$1 for
less?
the land, well, it would have to go to the
Legal?
county board.
Yeah.
The other fees would be less than $80.
Okay, so it's nothing.
And is all that land on a floodplain?
I don't know that answer.
Looks like it, but I don't know, we'd have to look at that.
Having,
Yes, it would be, but I don't know.
Certainly.
having walked back there, it pretty much everything right along there does flood periodically.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Moves us on to item 7C, which is Resolution 2337, approving plans and specifications in order and advertisement for bids for the 2018 street improvement projects.
Well, I was just gonna ask Greg, we're talking about this East Side project and you're looking at bids coming in May and reviewing in May 15th. Aren't we kinda late in the process here? Do you think we're gonna get reasonable bids or?
That's the schedule we need to meet the statute of 3 weeks advertising and then fitting the next council meeting. So that's the quickest. If you authorize this tonight, we can open bids. That's the quickest we can open them. Now, we've been opening bids here the last couple of weeks. We've had a number of bidders on projects, so I'm fairly optimistic we'll receive a number of bids. Going out for bids no means obligates you to construct the project this year.
Right.
Well, I can see it going out for bids, but I'll have to see how that one comes in. It's
Yep.
late.
Right.
I think it's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yep.
I do
Especially
too.
with the school being up there. The other thing I'd like to ask, Greg, is, on this project here, I know on the last project, and I'm probably wrong, but I don't think we went with the lowest bidder on that wet side project, and is there a reason we didn't do that?
This one, we did not include, the last major project, West Side Two, we used the best value contracting process, which means the bids were scored, was a portion of it, a large portion, but we also interviewed them and looked at past experience. And you're right, we went with the second bidder at that time. There's a certain amount of times the city can actually use that policy. It's a certain percentage of your public improvement projects you can actually do that. You can't do that on all of your projects using best value. You're allowed to do it a certain percentage of the time.
Okay, thank you.
But there again, your requirement when you get the bid is to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. So if the low bidder comes in and it's someone we've had issues with or we don't feel qualified, you are under no obligation to award it.
Well, it kind of amazed me because we had more issues with the one we took than the experience we had with the first one that I knew of. But no, I don't want to get into that tonight. Thank you.
I don't know, I think I'd rather hold it off a year.
I would make a motion to do that.
The reason is, I mean, granted, we can go for the bids and all this good stuff, but, I mean, it's getting late. I think with the city, who knows what else might come up that we need.
But it would also increase the cost if you wait another year.
I think it'd be good to maybe
I guess to
see what the bids come in,
The bids are-
and then we can reject them all.
Right.
We don't have to actually build it if we deem it comes in too high.
I think I'd be for putting the bids out, yeah, too.
Yeah, check it out.
Because we know the project has to be done at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We've
I would
already
say-
punted a number of times.
Well, and then the next year, if you do get your bids and you got last year's bids, you got something to compare to. So I think it's a good thing all the way around to get the bids.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A motion by John. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. To approve Resolution 2337, approving plans and specifications in order and advertisement for bids for the 2018 street improvement projects. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 7D, which is Resolution 2338, supporting local decision-making authority.
Yeah, I only want to make a quick comment on that, Robbie, because it kind of stirred things up here from a couple weeks ago at our last meeting, because I was thinking about this in reading that, how who knows better than the local people and everybody how to take care of things and what's best for your town and stuff. The one thing that I will say is that back in the 70s, Brainerd, Minnesota, got real determined that they weren't going to put fluoride in their water, and they fought the state for years with their regulations. And they eventually won and found out that it probably would have been better if none of us used fluoride. The other thing is, I was going to say too, is that this water thing we okayed 2 weeks ago is so frustrating to me that somebody's going to determine whether you can hose your sidewalk off or whether you can hose your driveway off. And then yet we're sending out this printer that says we don't want this kind of stuff and we want to make our own decisions, but yet we voted to back the state in this other thing. So I don't have an issue with it one way or the other. Appreciate you doing that. But sometimes this stuff just really gets weird to me. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Now I'll take a motion to approve Resolution 2338, supporting local decision-making authority.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Bill, second by Ken. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Moves on to item 7E, which is the MediaCom.
Yeah, hopefully, Dave, you can help me with that, or Linnell. I remember 3-4 years ago when I was on the council, all of a sudden Aaron came to us, and we found out we owned this tower that we didn't know we owned. and we found out we had all these cell phones on it. And is this the tower that we're talking about now? And at that time, MediaCom was supposed to be paying us a lease on that tower. Is this the same tower and everybody's on the right page now? Okay, thank you. I make a motion to move ahead.
I got a motion by Leroy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ken. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1. All right, moves us on to item 7F, Northland Securities Financial Agreement.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's just another one of those things where here we go again, another 3,000 to take care of things, and it always seem to cost us money. I don't know. It's we spend 3,000 on wine and liquor and stuff like this, and yet we were worried about giving our pool person $15 an hour. But anyway, I make a motion to move ahead with it.
Motion by Leroy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1. Moves on to item 7G, which is the approve the on-sale strong beer and liquor license for Artisan Plaza.
I had gotten it mixed up with
Cocktail?
7A, so I'm,
Make a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Ken, second by Morris. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Moves us on to reports. Dave?
Just an announcement. The planning commission meeting that was supposed to be held next Monday, the 9th, is, we are figuring out what to do with that because the winery is not going to be providing us with their plans and everything. So we will not be hosting the public hearing for that, the conditional use permit next Monday at the planning commission meeting. That will be pushed to the May 14th planning commission meeting. So no public hearing for the winery next Monday.
No meeting Monday.
No meeting at
So
all?
no
or
meeting at all?
public Hearing?
We are waiting to see what to do legally about having, because the public hearing was posted and published, so what we have to do with regards to opening it, possibly postponing it, things like that. So more details to come on that.
Well, as we saw, it snowed today, and it's going to freeze overnight, so hopefully people drive safe, and if people cannot park on the street, so Wes's guys can get the streets plowed, that would be even better. This Thursday, we have our Coffee, Cops, and Conversation down at the bakery at 10:30. If anybody would like to join us, that would be greatly appreciated. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Wes, did you have anything? I know.
I don't see Tim, our EMS chief, here tonight, but I'm going to talk about him anyway. The Minnesota Ambulance Association hosted a Stars of Life. I'm sorry. The Minnesota Ambulance Association hosted a Stars of Life program in cooperation with the American Ambulance Association. And Sulo and Tim were nominated by their peers to receive this award. The nominations were reviewed by the Minnesota Ambulance Association, and they were approved for that award. That award, or the event goals, is to reward and congratulate outstanding employees, educate members of the Minnesota legislature, project a positive image of Minnesota ambulance services, generate media stories about Minnesota EMS and our stars. They were presented with awards. They were to meet with legislatures, at least that was the goal. I'm not sure if they were able to do that. He did say there were some timing issues, so I'm not sure exactly, but they were up at the Capitol. They did receive a tour of the Capitol. There was an evening reception held, and they were presented with a plaque. And congratulations to both Tim and Sulo.
Those guys have done a real good job for the ambulance service.
Mm-hmm. And that's all I have.
Bill?
I have nothing.
Cedar?
Public Works met this evening, and I just wanted to thank staff, Dave and Greg and Linnell and Wes. in order to be prepared for this particular meeting, we needed to pull in a bunch of things in advance. Sometimes we can just kind of meet and go from there, but this week we had to really pull things together in advance to feel prepared and able to address the concerns that were being raised. And I was just really appreciative of the great job that staff did. It was great, and it was a good meeting, so that's all. Thanks.
Well, nothing on planning, but I thought of something else. Greg, we were going to tie this in with the East Side project. The repairs up in Limestone up there in that cul-de-sac in the end.
Those, we did get quotes last fall. We could add that as an alternate to this that isn't necessarily tied to being awarded, but at least would give you a number on what it was. We already have the plan together, so we could just add that as an alternate if that's the council's wish.
Wherever that goes, it's just a bad situation up there. I know we were going to tie it into the East Side project, but maybe it's something to look at if we don't do that, so.
Do we want to reopen that and have him go out for bids again on that as an alternative?
I mean, I think it should be included, because we
Yeah.
did make those
Yeah.
representations.
I think Hinch should pay for it.
Are we going back down that road? It's a dead end, I'm telling you.
Okay, so, and that would be Resolution 2337, then we will amend, so that would be, John, you'd have to amend your resolution, or your amendment,
Okay.
to include the,
Okay. I'll amend to include the
Limestone.
limestone cul-de-sac and whatever we want to call it.
As an alternative.
as an alternative, yeah.
As an alternative, yes.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I have nothing.
The park board meeting that we were supposed to have this coming Thursday, we didn't get the agenda out. So we will not meet this coming Thursday. I sent out a notice. Hopefully, everybody can make it on Thursday, the 13th. So that's the plan at this point.
Can you see if council members on there, keep one, and then there's Robbie and Linnell there, would you pass that down to them? And, I got a few things I wanted to bring up tonight, Robbie.
Okay.
The one thing is, this has to be my last night on the council. Due to health issues, I have to resign. I do want to let the city know that there's some good things going on around here, and I've been felt very privileged to serve and to be elected to this. I want to thank the colleagues up here for working together on our issues. But it is time that I have to take a break here. I have got a letter off to everybody. I do things the old-fashioned way. I don't like the internet. I don't like texting. So I do it the old-fashioned way, so that's all that is a letter of my resignation. Couple other things that I would like to bring up tonight because of my leaving is if there's any possibility I can make a motion tonight that Dave Maroney gets appointed new administrator and Samantha gets appointed to take over our EDA. I would like to make that motion tonight, and this can be done with. I also included in on that is that I can't believe the job Linnell has been doing for us through these times and keeping her job going, plus all these reports we've been going through. But I would feel a lot better if we stuck with our local people, and I think they have the talent. And if the council would consider it, I'd like to make a motion tonight to move Dave Maroney into city administrator right away.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Leroy and a second by Morris to move Dave Maroney to city administrator.
And Samantha to take over the EDA.
Well, with that,
She's a shared employee
she's a shared employee, I think we'd have to work on that part of it.
Yeah.
Right.
And we can always fill that job later on, but Samantha will take care of it for us for now.
What's your opinion, Dave?
Come on, Dave, be straight out about it.
I know the council has established a process that they're following through now with advertising and recruiting for the city administrator. I haven't opposed that. Several of you have talked to me in the past about considering, making application for the position. I haven't made a decision yet. I think the ads maybe just came out this week. I guess if it's in the interest of the council to pursue this, I would certainly welcome an opportunity to at least communicate with either personnel committee or the entire council, however you choose to do this. But it's something that I guess I would consider if asked to do it. But I think there does need to be a process and obviously a dialogue between the council and myself, certainly, and others.
The one thing, Dave, is, and I'd like to see the council do is, if you're willing to accept this, to reach some kind of minimum agreement for 6 months, do an evaluation of where you're happy and where you're not happy and where the council expects. And to me, this should be a 6-month period, and then do an evaluation study, and then all contracts will be written and whatever everybody likes. So if you would be willing to do that, to me, we do the 6-month deal, and then council sits down with you and has a workshop and goes on from there, if you'd be happy with that.
I'm more than willing to talk with the council as a group about that particular proposal, Leroy, if that's what you want to pursue here with me. I'm more than happy to talk about it, but I think honestly we together would need to have some serious conversations about this, and I'm willing to do that.
Right. So
Yeah, we
if you would consider that, I'd just like to make a motion to talk to Dave, and if everything is agreeable, to move on with him being our new city administrator.
Okay, you already made that motion, and it's been seconded, and now we're discussing it. So we get what your motion is. Bill?
We can't do things like this. We have a process in place. I really like Dave, good to work with, but we have to go through the process, and if Dave wishes to apply, hey, that's great, and move it forward with the personnel committee.
I took and called Roger Knutson and spent about 20 minutes on his phone, so I wouldn't say something that can't be done or isn't the right way to do it. So I've already talked to Roger Knutson, and I wanted to try to do this all the way along. I thought, but Roger's completely informed that this can be done and it's perfectly legal. If the council don't want to do it, that's fine with me, but that's the way I see it tonight.
Did you just talk about how much we spend on our city attorney to evaluate different licenses? Anyways, that's beside the point. I tend to concur with Bill that I would love to consider Dave alongside other applicants who may choose to apply, probably with a strong presumption in Dave's favor because we're familiar with him and we know firsthand his work record, whereas other people we won't know firsthand. But I would prefer to evaluate him alongside a pool of qualified candidates.
Well, I look at that as, I've been told that we might get more qualified or better people. I told that person that I totally think the opposite. I feel our quality people are right in this town. So I'm okay with however the council wants to do it. I just brought it up tonight. If you don't want to vote on it, fine. If you would vote on it to at least totally consider Dave and start talking to him about it, I'd appreciate it. But I'm open either way, whatever works.
I think it's a very good choice, but Dave and I have talked on several occasions, but I think it's something too that maybe we should talk at a personnel committee about first too, and then come up with a solution.
Any other discussion? Does council want to vote on it, or they want to table it?
We have a motion and a second.
Right,
Oh.
so we kind of have to vote, right?
Yep.
And it's vote either make Dave an offer today
Right.
or essentially table it.
Well, for personnel to talk to him about it.
Well, the
That wasn't your
motion's
motion.
been made.
No.
So
You can amend your motion.
You can either amend the motion, or you can vote on the motion and see if it passes or fails. If it fails, then you could do another motion to see how you wanted to move forward. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor, though.
Right.
Well, I want to stick with the original motion, and if Dave doesn't accept it, that's, so be it. And I just want to make a motion to move ahead with it. How you do that, I'll leave that up to Robbie.
Well, we got a motion and a second, so,
And to clarify, the motion is to make the offer tonight.
to make,
not
to
talk with
move,
personnel.
to move Dave Maroney,
Okay.
and move Sam to EDA,
Okay.
was his motion.
Right. So we're ready to vote?
Yep,
Let's have a roll call vote.
yep. Roll call.
Bill?
No.
Cedar?
No.
John?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Ken?
Help us out.
I think I'm going to vote no. I'm having a hard time.
Yes.
No. Leroy was yes.
Yes.
So we have a tie, 3-3.
All right, and at this time, I'm going to vote no, so we can go through the process.
Thank you.
Motion fails 4-3. Anything else, Leroy?
Yeah, a couple other things. The council needs to know that with our situation we've had here in the last few months, and the city of Cannon Falls needs to know this, that we got one hell of amazing staff here. A couple of examples I can give you is I got a call about 6 weeks ago from a gal that was all worked up because she thought she had a leak in her house, and she was worried about her water bill and all this. And so I went there and checked everything over. There was no leaks, but she didn't feel comfortable with that because her water meter was blinking, and it shouldn't be blinking. And she looked up on the internet on water meters, and she knew all about water meters. And I said, you know, I've checked your house and there's no leaks, but I don't care to study water meters. So you got to get a hold of Afton down there, and she'll send somebody out to take care of your water meter. I used to get into them kind of situations, and sometimes I wouldn't get very good reports back. But I got to tell you, it was so exciting because 3 days later I got a call back from this lady and said, wow, I don't know who this guy was that came out here, but he took care of all my questions. He looked everything over, and he explained it all to me. So now I know how it all works. So I just let you know, Leroy, I got it taken care of, and the city employee did a really great job, was very professional about it. Well, that drove me nuts, so I had to call Dave Pagel up to see who that person was that took care of us, and that was Wes out here. So the other thing I wanted to tell you about before I get off here is 2-3 weeks ago, we had kind of a serious thing in town here that the local police got involved in because it was a county issue, but we ended up involved. I read the paper every week on our police reports, and it drives me nuts because all the drug paraphernalia and everything that's going on, I always keep my fingers crossed that I want to stay a small community, and I just don't want that kind of stuff in town. So I always keep my fingers crossed, and then of course with these shootings we got going on nowadays, that totally drives me crazy. But I will tell you that we had a real serious situation about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the guns had to be drawn. Somebody was way out left field. It could have just well been a damn disaster where people are shot and things could have. But because of the professionalism of our police department, Joe, and make sure they hear this, that nobody got hurt, nobody had to shoot. This got taken care of. And it actually gives me the chills to talk about it because I appreciate your guys' professionalism. And that's it. Thank you.
Leroy, I'd just like to say thank you for all your service to the citizens of Cannon Falls. You know, I wish you the best. I know that you've, it's not your first tour of duty on the council, and you know what the time and everything it takes to do a good job. And I just want to say thank you and good luck in all your future endeavors.
Appreciate it.
And with that, I'd just like to say we will have opening. If people want to apply, for the opening on council, please stop by City Hall, fill out an application, and we'll take a look at them and make a recommendation to council and go from there. And with that, Chair will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.